Mimar Sinan was not born into power or privilege, yet his vision reshaped an empire. His story is not just one of architecture but of transformation, of a boy taken from his home, trained as a soldier, and rising to become the chief architect of the Ottoman Empire. The world he built still stands today, echoing the brilliance of a man whose genius defined an era. Imagine a time when the Ottomans ruled vast lands, their cities filled with towering minarets and grand domes. This was an age of ambition, where sultans sought to leave behind legacies of stone and marble. But behind their dreams stood one man, the master builder, the visionary, the man who turned ideas into reality. Mimar Sinan was more than just an architect, he was the mind behind a golden age of Ottoman design. His journey began in humble surroundings, far from the opulent palaces he would one day shape. Taken as a young boy through the Redefined system, he became part of the elite Janissary corps, trained in warfare and discipline. Yet, even as a soldier, his eyes were drawn not to battlefields but to the structures of the world. Bridges, mosques, palaces, each one a puzzle waiting to be solved, a canvas waiting to be painted in stone. His talent did not go unnoticed. As the empire expanded, he traveled with the Ottoman armies, witnessing the architectural marvels of Persia, Syria, and Europe. Each journey added to his knowledge, refining his understanding of structure, symmetry, and beauty. Then, in the service of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, Sinan was given the ultimate opportunity. He was appointed chief architect of the empire. This was no ordinary title. He was now responsible for designing not just buildings but the very identity of the Ottoman skyline. From Istanbul to the farthest reaches of the empire, Sinan would oversee the construction of over 300 structures, each one carrying his signature of perfection. But his legacy would not be measured in numbers alone. It would be in the way he redefined Ottoman architecture, blending function with artistry, spirituality with engineering, tradition with innovation. His works would challenge the greatest structures of his time, competing with the likes of Hagia Sophia and the great cathedrals of Europe. His understanding of space and light would transform how mosques were built, how cities were planned, and how people experienced architecture. His designs were not just about grandeur, they were about harmony, about the seamless fusion of man-made brilliance with divine inspiration. As we begin this journey into the life and works of Mimar Sinan, we step into an era where every brick had a purpose, every dome told a story, and every minaret reached for the heavens. He was more than an architect, he was the builder of an empire's soul. His genius was not just in what he created but in how he transformed the very concept of architecture itself. Mimar Sinan's path to greatness was anything but ordinary. Born into a modest Christian family in Anatolia, he had no royal lineage, no wealth, no formal schooling in architecture. Yet, fate had chosen him for a different kind of legacy. His life took a dramatic turn when he was taken under the Redefined system, a practice where young boys were recruited into the Ottoman service. For many, it was a road to military excellence, but for Sinan, it was the first step toward becoming the greatest architect of his time. His early years were spent as a Janissary, an elite soldier in the service of the Sultan. Trained in warfare, strategy, and engineering, he traveled across the empire, witnessing the architectural marvels of different civilizations. The bridges of Persia, the mosques of Arabia, the churches of Europe, all became part of his silent education. While others focused on conquest, Sinan was absorbing knowledge, sketching ideas in his mind, imagining ways to merge the grandeur of the past with the ambitions of the future. His talent soon became undeniable. While serving in military campaigns, he impressed his commanders by designing sturdy fortifications, swift bridges, and ingenious water systems. He was not just a soldier, he was a builder with an eye for perfection. When the Ottoman army struggled to cross the Pruth River in Eastern Europe, Sinan swiftly constructed a bridge, allowing the troops to advance. His skills earned him recognition, and more importantly, the attention of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. Suleiman was a ruler who wanted his empire to reflect its power through breathtaking architecture. He needed a master builder, someone who could translate his vision into structures that would stand for centuries. Sinan was appointed as the chief royal architect, a role that placed him at the helm of Ottoman construction. It was a position of immense responsibility. Mosques, palaces, bridges, and even entire city layouts now fell under his command. Yet, Sinan did not merely follow existing traditions. He redefined them. Ottoman architecture had long been influenced by Byzantine and Persian styles, but Sinan sought to perfect these inspirations. He believed in balance, between light and shadow, between strength and elegance, between the earthly and the divine. His designs became more than just buildings, they became expressions of harmony, creating spaces that felt both grand and serene. With each new project, he experimented. He refined the proportions of domes, ensuring they stood not just as symbols of power but as engineering masterpieces. He played with acoustics, making sure that even the softest prayers could be heard within the vast halls of his mosques. He mastered water distribution systems, ensuring cities thrived with fresh supplies. No detail was too small, no structure too insignificant. Mimar Sinan's rise from a Janissary to the empire's greatest architect was not just a personal triumph, it was a transformation of Ottoman architecture itself. He had begun as a soldier, but his real battles were fought with stone, his victories measured in structures that would outlive empires. What lay ahead was his true masterpiece, a body of work that would define the Ottoman skyline and inspire generations to come. When Mimar Sinan was tasked with building the Süleymaniye Mosque, he knew it could not be just another place of worship. It had to be the defining symbol of Sultan Suleiman's reign, a structure that reflected not just the power of the Ottoman Empire, but the wisdom and vision of the Sultan himself. This was not simply about grandeur, it was about creating a legacy carved in stone. The location was chosen carefully. Overlooking the Golden Horn in Istanbul, the mosque was to dominate the city's skyline. It needed to be seen from a distance, standing as a beacon of faith and authority. The challenge, however, was not just about visibility. The site was uneven, requiring extensive groundwork before construction could even begin. Yet, Sinan saw this not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity to display his engineering genius. Unlike other grand mosques of the past, Sinan's design was revolutionary. Instead of relying solely on Byzantine influences, he introduced a perfect balance between Ottoman and Islamic architectural traditions. The central dome, inspired by the Hagia Sophia, soared high, but its support system was entirely new. Rather than thick, intrusive pillars that would block the view, Sinan devised a series of half-domes and buttresses that distributed the weight seamlessly. The result was a breathtaking sense of openness, an airy, almost celestial atmosphere that made worshippers feel as if they were standing beneath the heavens. Beyond its visual beauty, the Süleymaniye Mosque was a marvel of functionality. The acoustics were so meticulously designed that even a whisper from the mihrab could be heard across the vast prayer hall. The ventilation system allowed air to circulate naturally, preventing the buildup of soot from candles and oil lamps. In fact, Sinan even created a chamber where the soot collected, later repurposed for ink used in royal manuscripts, a testament to his ability to blend artistry with practicality. But the mosque was only part of a much larger vision. Sinan designed the Süleymaniye complex as a self-sustaining city within a city. Surrounding the mosque were schools, hospitals, bathhouses, kitchens, and a caravanserai. It was not merely a place of worship but a center of learning, charity, and commerce, an embodiment of Suleiman's rule, which sought to combine power with justice. For Sultan Suleiman, this mosque was deeply personal. It was to be his greatest architectural legacy, the place where he would one day be laid to rest. Knowing this, Sinan ensured that every detail reflected the Sultan's achievements. Calligraphy adorned the walls, with verses from the Quran emphasizing wisdom, strength, and leadership. The placement of windows allowed sunlight to filter in at just the right angles, creating a divine glow over the prayer space. Even the placement of water fountains symbolized purity and renewal. Despite its grandeur, the mosque's construction was not rushed. Sinan took his time, refining every element until it met his exacting standards. When it was finally completed, it was more than just a building, it was a statement. It declared the Ottoman Empire's dominance not through military conquest, but through culture, intellect, and devotion. Centuries later, the Süleymaniye Mosque still stands, a testament to the partnership between a visionary architect and a powerful ruler. It is not just a tribute to Sultan Suleiman, it is a monument to an era where faith, empire, and artistry came together to create something truly timeless. By the time Süleymaniye Mosque was completed, Mimar Sinan was no longer just the chief architect of the Ottoman Empire, he was a legend in his own lifetime. But his ambitions did not end with one masterpiece. Over the course of his long career, he reshaped the very identity of Ottoman cities, leaving behind structures that were more than just places of worship. They were symbols of an empire at its zenith. His architectural brilliance was not confined to Istanbul alone. Across the empire, from Edirne to Damascus, he left his mark. His buildings were not simply about size or decoration. They carried a philosophy. Each structure was designed to complement its surroundings, harmonizing with nature and the urban landscape. One of his most ambitious projects was the Selimiye Mosque in Edirne, a city that had once been the Ottoman capital. Built later in his life, Sinan himself regarded it as his finest work. The challenge here was to surpass even the grandeur of Süleymaniye. He wanted to create the perfect dome, one that seemed to float effortlessly in the sky. And he succeeded. The Selimiye Mosque's dome is even larger than that of Hagia Sophia, an architectural feat many thought impossible. Supported by an innovative system of slender piers, it created an illusion of weightlessness, an achievement that stunned architects for centuries to come. Beyond mosques, Sinan also transformed urban infrastructure. He designed countless bridges, aqueducts, and public buildings that strengthened the empire's foundation. The Maglova Aqueduct, for example, was not only a stunning feat of engineering but also a lifeline for Istanbul, securing the city's water supply. Unlike many medieval aqueducts that crumbled over time, Sinan's designs endured earthquakes and floods, proving that beauty and function could exist side by side. His genius extended to smaller yet equally significant projects: madrasas, Islamic schools, caravanserais, and hospitals, all constructed with an understanding of community needs. The Selimiye Mosque, built as a tribute to Sultan Suleiman's late son, is another example of his thoughtful approach. Here, he experimented with symmetry and balance, creating a mosque that felt intimate despite its grandeur. Sinan was also deeply concerned with the experience of those who entered his buildings. Light played a crucial role in his designs. He carefully studied the movement of the sun, placing windows in precise locations to allow natural illumination to shift throughout the day. Mosques would glow with golden light at dawn and shimmer with a soft, ethereal blue at dusk. The result was not just visual beauty but a spiritual experience. Worshippers felt transported beyond the material world. But perhaps what set Sinan apart the most was his ability to adapt. His work evolved over time, becoming more refined, more daring. He was not bound by tradition but instead pushed the boundaries of what Ottoman architecture could achieve. He learned from every project, each structure informing the next. His late works, such as the Rustam Pasha Mosque, are remarkable for their intricate tilework and masterful use of space. Even in his smaller mosques, he demonstrated an unparalleled attention to detail, proving that true genius was not just about scale, but about perfection in every aspect. His legacy was not just in the buildings he left behind, but in the architects he trained. The principles he established continued to shape Ottoman architecture for generations. Even after his death, his influence could be seen in the designs of later mosques and palaces, echoing his mastery of space, light, and proportion. Today, the skylines of Istanbul, Edirne, and countless other Ottoman cities still bear the signature of Mimar Sinan. His buildings stand, not just as historical monuments but as living testaments to an age of unparalleled artistic and engineering achievement. His vision transformed more than just stone and mortar, it shaped the very soul of a civilization. By the time Mimar Sinan took his last breath, he had left behind more than just buildings. He had crafted a legacy that would influence architecture for centuries. His work was not just about structures of stone and mortar, it was about redefining the way people experienced space, light, and harmony. His architectural philosophy was so groundbreaking that it continued to shape not only the Ottoman Empire but also inspired future generations across the world. What made Sinan's legacy so enduring was his ability to blend tradition with innovation. He had studied and mastered the architectural styles of the Byzantines, Persians, and Arabs, yet he never simply copied. Instead, he synthesized these influences into something uniquely Ottoman. His structures were not just places of worship or governance, they were embodiments of imperial power, artistic mastery, and spiritual serenity. One of his greatest contributions was his ability to refine the concept of the central dome. Before him, even the Ottomans had struggled to surpass the grandeur of Hagia Sophia, which had stood for centuries as a symbol of Byzantine engineering. But Sinan's designs, especially in the Selimiye Mosque, demonstrated that Ottoman architecture had not only matched but surpassed its predecessors. His approach to weight distribution, balance, and spatial openness became the gold standard for mosque construction for generations to come. Beyond his own works, Sinan's influence spread through the architects he trained. Many of his apprentices went on to design some of the most iconic structures of the late Ottoman period. His students carried his vision forward, ensuring that his principles of symmetry, elegance, and functionality remained central to Ottoman architectural identity. Even after the empire's decline, his influence endured. His techniques found their way into the grand mosques of later centuries, and even in modern architecture, elements of his design philosophy can be seen. The play of natural light, the careful use of space, and the seamless integration of buildings with their surroundings, these are all hallmarks of Sinan's genius that continue to inspire architects today. Sinan's impact was not confined to the Ottoman world. European architects and travelers who visited Istanbul marveled at his creations, incorporating elements of his designs into their own works. The way he combined engineering brilliance with aesthetic beauty set a new benchmark in architectural history. His bridges, aqueducts, and mosques demonstrated that utility and artistry did not have to be separate, they could coexist in perfect harmony. Perhaps the greatest testament to Sinan's legacy is the fact that his structures still stand today, centuries after their creation. Many of his buildings have withstood earthquakes, wars, and the test of time, proving that his designs were not just visually stunning but also structurally superior. In an age when many historic structures have crumbled, Sinan's works continue to dominate the skylines of Istanbul, Edirne, and beyond. Even today, visitors stepping into the Süleymaniye Mosque or gazing upon the Selimiye Mosque are met with a sense of awe. The way the domes seem to hover effortlessly, the precision of the acoustics, the interplay of light and shadow, every detail speaks to Sinan's unparalleled genius. His contributions went beyond his lifetime, shaping the very identity of Ottoman architecture and leaving an imprint that still resonates. Mimar Sinan was not just an architect, he was a visionary who built an empire of stone, one that continues to inspire and captivate the world. Mimar Sinan was more than just an architect, he was the mind behind an era, a man who transformed the Ottoman Empire's skyline and left behind a legacy that shaped civilizations. His structures were not merely places of worship, governance, or utility, they were statements of power, elegance, and ingenuity. He took the raw elements of stone, marble, and brick and turned them into works of art that defied time. Even today, centuries after his passing, his buildings stand as silent witnesses to his genius. What set Sinan apart from his predecessors and even his successors was not just his mastery of architecture but his vision. He understood the spiritual and symbolic power of architecture. Every mosque he built was designed to inspire awe, every bridge was a testament to endurance, and every aqueduct was a promise of prosperity. His work was a reflection of an empire at its peak, blending the best of Islamic, Persian, and Byzantine influences into something uniquely Ottoman. His impact was not limited to his own time. The generations of architects he trained carried his principles forward, ensuring that the golden age of Ottoman architecture did not end with him. Even beyond the empire's borders, his work influenced European architects, proving that great design transcends culture and geography. His ability to push engineering boundaries while maintaining aesthetic perfection set new standards for architectural excellence. But perhaps Sinan's greatest achievement was his ability to build structures that withstood the test of time. While many grand buildings of the past have crumbled due to neglect, conflict, or natural disasters, his creations, Süleymaniye Mosque, Selimiye Mosque, and countless others, still stand today, not just as historical relics but as active centers of life and spirituality. The resilience of his work is a testament to his brilliance in engineering and construction. Standing in the courtyards of his mosques or walking across the bridges he built, one cannot help but feel the presence of a man whose ambition was not just to construct buildings but to shape the very identity of an empire. His domes still cast their shadows over Istanbul, his minarets still call the faithful to prayer, and his bridges still connect people and places, just as they did in his time. Mimar Sinan was not just the chief architect of the Ottoman Empire, he was the architect of a civilization. His designs defined an era, influenced generations, and continue to inspire the modern world. His legacy is not just in the buildings he left behind but in the way they continue to be admired, studied, and cherished. For as long as his structures stand, his name will never be forgotten.